Congratulations to Dan Lanning. He has become the winningest by a percentage-based head coach in Oregon history through however many games, but he passed Chip Kelly in the winning percentage.
We spend to win.
Yeah, we do spend to win. You've been spending to win for a long time.
Yeah.
As Oregon went on the road at Penn State, hostile environment, and pulled off a double overtime thriller. I had not been aware that was his first overtime.
Yeah, no overtime games in his career to this point. And close couple of times. The Washington game, if they would have made that kick at the end, would have gone. The first one in Seattle, that one would have gone to overtime. They've been close, but no overtime games.
And Oregon goes on the road. Let's go whoop their ass! And I would argue in the first half, absolutely whooped their ass. The score didn't show it, but the statistics did.
Yeah.
Went up 17-3. Penn State was firing James Franklin, like chanting "Fire Franklin." And Oregon allowed 2 touchdowns. They go to double overtime. Thieneman gets the pick of Aller or Alar, depending on who you're talking to.
Who calls him Alar? Is that a thing?
Dane Brugler did. Did you not catch that on our interview with him?
I did not catch that.
He calls him both.
Oh.
Because I watch
Cover
his
your
stuff.
tracks each way, just in case it's one or the other.
He's one of the only people I've heard him call Alar, but I've heard Alar before, and I'm like, I think it's Aller, but what do I know?
I think they're alarmed about Alar's play right now.
They're alarmed about James Franklin, and Oregon goes on the road, as Mike Host probably cried on Saturday night.
That was a fun one, man. That one's up there. It's on the Mount Rushmore of regular season wins in my lifetime. To do it in that environment, in that crowd, in that setting, which most people would argue is one of the toughest settings to play in the entire sport. Not just Penn State, but to get the whiteout game, the night game. They've been gearing up for a big top 10 showdown in that game for a long time. Penn State's returning everybody. They're coming off a bye. This is their game to win. And to go in there and to steal it and to, I would argue, dominate 85% of the game, it was incredible. And it wasn't just the fact that they won that made it so enjoyable. It was the way in which they did it that made it really sweet. Like, this is a young team that's supposed to be a year away. And in a lot of settings, when you have a team down and then you let them off the hook and you blow a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter, like, it's really easy for a young team in that moment to fold. And for them to stay composed, for their quarterback to stay composed, to identify the play that Penn State's going to run to open up the second overtime and to lead Dylan Thieneman right to that interception that sealed it. It wasn't just about winning. It was more about, for me, what felt so great was the way that they did it. They dominated the line of scrimmage. They stayed composed, made plays when they needed to, and that one will go down in history. I don't know what it means in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't matter right now. All that matters is they won that game on Saturday night, and that's another massive notch in the belt for Dan Lanning.
It's a huge one. You were talking about dominance. So the halftime score is 3-3, and I'm watching this with everybody else, and I'm like, man, it's so weird how this feels. So I went and looked at the stats to make sure, because I wasn't following stats-wise during the game.
They moved the ball in every possession. They just kept getting stymied, and fourth down stop, a missed field goal.
So first downs, this is the halftime, okay? First downs, Oregon 9-4.
Yep.
Total yards 189-69.
69 total yards of offense at home in the first half for Penn State.
Passing 112-45.
Yep.
Rushing was dominant, 77-24.
Yep.
Time of possession 19-10.
Yeah.
And it was one of those weird things like where we didn't text this, but I was wondering, despite the score, you're either feeling extremely confident because you saw a dominant performance and you think eventually the dam breaks through, or you go the other way. We dominated, and it's only 3-3, and we've seen this before. Oh, my gosh. But when they went up 17-3, the camera panned over to Dan Lanning. And he did like a, let's cut it, it's effing over. Like, he did one of those gestures, and then Penn State proceeded to score 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that one almost aged terribly. He was asked about it post-game, and he said he was doing, their theme of the week was 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
And so he was saying, I was telling the team, that's another cut. And that's what he wasn't doing they're over,
whatever. He did say, let's effing finish this.
Yes.
I know he said that. I watched it. I read his lips, and that's okay. He's going to defend it. But this is the post-game. I thought this was... We've seen emotional Dan Lanning. We've seen charged up Dan Lanning. This one was probably the most fired up, passionate, emotional Dan Lanning we have ever seen, and he's won a Big Ten title game.
Mm-hmm.
He's beaten Ohio State. But winning at Penn State with Dante Moore and the rest of the youth, getting a game of his life from De'Aaron Hill, who might be and maybe should be the premier back of that room. Here was Dan Lanning on the field with NBC.
Unbelievable job, man, of our guys keeping their composure. We said this game's going to be about 1,000 cuts.
right? Every cut matters. Every cut matters. And eventually, hit the jugular. That was it right there. Unbelievable focus. Our quarterback is an absolute all-star. Our team, man, special, man, special.
You described this group to us during the week as having an elite level of focus. How did that play into the victory tonight?
Dude, never lost their composure 1 second. Highs and lows in this game. That's a great football team, right? Threw some punches, we punch more, right? Hit a haymaker at the end.
What kind of statement does this victory make for your program?
And we're on to the next game. We got to keep improving, keep growing. We're going to see some great teams in this league. It's an unbelievable league. What an unbelievable atmosphere. Got a ton of respect for Coach Franklin, the job they do. Man, let me think about it for a second.
He was sweating as he was talking. You could hear in his voice in the first answer. He was almost going to cry. I think he was so jacked up.
Yeah, he almost did it again in the postgame presser, too. There was a very emotional Dan Lanning on Saturday.
Well, I mean, like, these are the moments where I would say, like, as a coach, you're building. You're constantly building. You're always evolving and you're building. And it's been nothing but a stellar start. As I mentioned at the top, he's got the highest winning percentage of any Oregon coach ever. He's number one.
I think he's 40-6 now in his career.
40-6. I think that gives him an 870-something winning percentage. That passes Chip Kelly's mark of 868. So he just barely passed him. Like, think about that, right? But you need Ohio State moments. You need Big Ten title game moments. And there's other moments you need as well, like eventually beating a Kalen DeBoer or a Washington. You overcome that last year, and you beat them finally. And you got a Ohio State thing lingering because they beat you in the playoff, and we'll see if it squares itself. But going on a road environment, as we talked to a ton of people last week who told us this was the loudest environment in college football. Mm-hmm. It was aesthetically just amazing to see the pom-poms and the whiteout and the vibe and the energy. To do that, talk about having a pelt on your wall, but something you go, man, this takes us to a level and continues to grow in the right direction in a way that eventually to, who was it, Jake Butt? It's not a if, it's a win. Like, you don't want to get ahead of yourself for the season. There's a lot of football to be played. Yeah. But that's something that I think a coach like that understands the magnitude of that moment.
Well, and also on top of it, 3 of the best players on the field on Saturday night were true freshmen on Oregon's side. De'Air Hill was the best running back in the game, and I don't even think it was close.
It's not even an argument.
DeCorian Moore was the best wide receiver in the game, and I don't think it was even close. And Brandon Finney, who is now starting every game as a true freshman, has allowed like 2 catches all season long. And those are 3 elite recruits that have all stepped in and played big minutes and big snaps right away, and they have not missed a beat. To have a freshman wide receiver make the catch that he made on a scramble drill late in the game on Oregon's second touchdown drive against A.J. Harris, who is going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. DeCorian Moore's 18 years old, and he made an unbelievable catch with his hands to hold on to it, scramble drill, cut up the sideline. Those kind of plays speak volumes to not only where they're at, but where they can go, not only this season, but in the years to come. Like, Oregon's not going anywhere, and it was the point that I tried to make in the offseason of, like, we're doing the same thing that we did last year. Oregon lost all this talent to the NFL. How are they going to replace it? And Oregon went 13-0 last year, and we did the same thing. This is about recruiting. It's about developing your guys. It's about finding the right pieces in the portal, and it was all on display on Saturday night with the freshmen making impacts, Dylan Thieneman, the safety transfer, making the game-sealing interception.
I thought Mateo was amazing.
Mateo was amazing. How about Bear Alexander clogging up the middle?
Yep.
Like, it just, everything came together for them on Saturday night. And
yeah, you guys got Bear Alexander to be amazing.
Yes, and it was...
That's been a problem in college football.
Yeah, Oregon's done that with a lot of guys, and they've turned them into NFL players where they've gotten the best out of guys. And you know, I talk about the way in which they won. The composure was unbelievable. The way that they dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball for the majority of the game. Penn State could not run the football to save their life. And whenever Drew Aller dropped back to pass, they made his life miserable because, one, they shut down the running game on first and second down.
Yeah, they made a lot of third and longs.
Yes, and on those 25 pass attempts for Drew Aller, he was pressured 18 of the 25 times. Like, they were in his kitchen all night. They didn't have a ton of sacks that piled up, but they affected a lot of throws. They tipped a lot of balls, and they made him incredibly uncomfortable. And this was one of the reasons that I was confident going in. I just don't really fear Drew Aller. Their offense comes down to, can they run the football? And I had a faith in Oregon's front seven being able to slow that down. And I know they got a little loosey-goosey there at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the mentality flipped. I don't know if it was, let's back off a little bit. We're up by 14. And then you did the one thing you couldn't do and gave up a touchdown in less than 2 minutes. So
I actually thought that was just that. Sometimes you just do have to tip your cap. That's a great throw by Aller.
it was a great play call and a
over
great
the top.
design. And
Yeah.
he beat Thieneman in front of his face and in the corner of the end zone. Like, that was a really nice play by Penn State. But for them to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball for the majority of the game was impressive. And then, the big elephant in the room coming into the season, and we joked a lot about it in the offseason, what are you going to have at quarterback? And I think you might have the best one in the entire country.
Well, the coach certainly feels that way. We'll get to that audio cut. I would say, too, on that point, not only did you see that mix of new, fresh talent and somewhat answer some of your questions that maybe you had going into the year, you mix that with what Mateo and Tuioti and Bear were doing with Thieneman coming in. Like, it was exactly the perfect combination of experience and youth that you've recruited or that you've portaled in.
And you got the best out of your young guys in the biggest game of the season.
I mean, look, you can make an argument for a handful of these programs in that sport, but right now I don't know if there is a team that's on the same level or even near the level that Oregon is in terms of their hit rate in the portal, right? You've seen the Florida State side of it.
Yeah.
We're going to portal our team in and replace all our talent and keep it going. Oh, no, we're going to win 2 games.
Yeah, boom or bust.
And they've portaled in good talent. They're a good team this year despite them losing. Oregon just largely doesn't whiff here. And the thing that I noticed was the broadcast of Blackledge, who we tried to get on, and he just doesn't do interviews. He kept noting that he noted in the very beginning of the game before he kicked off, and he noted it throughout the whole game. Oregon's offensive line, how big those dudes are. And then you flip it the other side, and you mentioned the pressure numbers. I mean, you could clearly tell who had the big uglies between them on their offensive line and Oregon's defensive line. And I don't know, man, we can date and trace this thing back to either Joey in the early 2000s or you could start at Chip. And you've had elite moments in that sport. Mario had some really good moments in that sport. This is at a level that you don't go into a game anymore and go, oh, God, look at their offensive line.
No.
Oh, God, look at that defensive line.
They've never been better.
It's never been bigger.
No.
That's the thing here. Like, when that dude came and we didn't know anything about him and there were question marks, and then he instantly started winning, and then you saw the recruiting turnaround. We noted on this show, everybody kind of noted, but like you could just tell this dude is coming from the SEC. What have they always won with?
Defensive line.
Offensive line, defensive line.
Yep.
And what has he put together now?
That was the primary focus of his first 3 recruiting classes, which is where when the fear for some who don't follow it closely of you lost 3 guys to the NFL from your defensive line in the first 3 rounds of the draft last year. That's a lot to replace.
Same with your offensive line.
Same with your offensive line.
Replacing
and
guys.
had one guy as a tackle drafted in the first round, and they look like they might be better than they were a year ago.
I would agree with that.
Because to go into Penn State, like we can have our issues of Franklin in big games and our question marks, and Drew Aller and all of that stuff.
Sure.
Penn State's elite defensively. I know that. They hired the defensive coordinator that put you into a pretzel in the Rose Bowl last year and was up 34-0 on you at Ohio State. And they have dominant play at the line of scrimmage. Those are non-negotiables with Penn State that they've always had. They've struggled at quarterback and other places, coordinators and all that. But offensive line play, defensive line play, they've always been stout. And to go in there and to have unquestionably the better unit for at least a night, I don't know if they play again, how it's going to go. We saw how that panned out last year with Ohio State. I certainly don't feel Penn State to the same level. But to have the better line of scrimmage play, it is a testament to what Lanning has built. And the vision that he had when he got here of Oregon was always really good. And they'd have good skill position players and elite quarterbacks, and they'd win a ton of games. But then you'd run into these big teams, and you just couldn't do it.
The LSU's,
you
the
get
Auburns,
pushed around
yes.
every time you were in those situations.
That's not
Ohio
happening
State
anymore.
ran the ball with Ezekiel Elliott for 800 yards on you, and I get it. This Penn State offense last year, at the end of the year, for whatever reason, Oregon's defense leaked gas late. Despite all the talent that they had, they gave up 297 rushing yards to Penn State in the Big Ten title game. 297. They returned both of their running backs this year. They were supposed to have the best running back room in the country. Katron Allen had 12 carries for 54 yards. 20 of those came on 1 carry. And Nick Singleton had 11 carries for 21 yards and averaged 1.9 yard per carry and did not have a run longer than 6 yards.
They cut it 160 yards from where they were in the Big Ten title game in just one season. We'll get to Franklin audio. Does Oregon have the best quarterback in the country? I think it's fair to ask that question.